Jurassic Park is and will always be my favorite movie of all time. I will never forget the day I saw that movie in theaters. April 6th, 2013. That was for the 3D re release of Jurassic Park. I have never seen Jurassic Park fully until that point. I saw clips, but I never really saw the whole thing. And I was 12 at the time, so after watching this movie, I was going into it thinking it was just going to be some dinosaur movie, just some dumb, monster movie, whatever. But going out of it, it changed me because it started to like make me think about a lot of things. Jurassic Park like got me interested in like filmmaking. Like I love hearing about like all these like behind the scenes like information, just like actors doing their thing in the movies or just like the special effects. All of that I think is really interesting stuff. Because like there's like a lot of like interesting behind the scenes about Jurassic Park that like really like I found really interesting. So that like expanded my interest in filmmaking. And even dinosaurs. Like, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved dinosaurs. And there was a point in my life where I didn't love dinosaurs as much. I thought they were cool, but I didn't love dinosaurs. But it wasn't until after seeing Jurassic Park that really, like, solidified my love for dinosaurs. Because ever since then, I've been, like, strongly, like, passionate about dinosaurs. It got me, like, wanting to learn more about, like, the paleontological side of things, like learning like how raptors had feathers and so on. It's just, yeah, Jurassic Park had the biggest influence on me. Now there are other movies that I love to death. I love Jaws. I love Back to the Future. Aliens, I think, is a phenomenal movie, and the original 1954 Godzilla. Again, all those movies are masterpieces. And some may argue that they might be better than Jurassic Park, and that's fair. But at least in my eyes, Jurassic Park will always be my favorite movie of all time, solely because of like how much of an impact it had on me. And even The Lost World Jurassic Park, I think, is a very good movie. Now, it's flawed. I know there are people out there who really don't like The Lost World, and honestly, that's fine. But I personally love The Lost World, and I think it's a pretty underrated movie, as flawed as it is. And of course, you can't really talk about Jurassic Park without talking about the books by Michael Crichton. The first Jurassic Park book by Michael Crichton is a masterpiece. It's a different beast from the movie counterpart, but still, I like both the book and the movie equally. A lot of people say the book is better, but I think they're equally as good because like they're both different enough to where like you could consider them their own thing. Like the movie is more of like an awe and like wonder sort of experience, and like the book is more like philosophical. So like they're two like mostly different beasts, but I still think that they are very good movies. So or the book and the movie. I think they're equally as great. As far as books go for The Lost World, I think the Lost World book is better, but that's just me. So yeah, I love Jurassic Park. I always will love Jurassic Park. I even like to this day, I always will, and I'll always continue to like buy the merchandising, and love Jurassic Park and so on. So I just want to make it very clear that I love Jurassic Park to death. I bring all this up because I'm just going to come out and say it. I do not like Jurassic World Dominion, the newest movie that just came out. Now, when Jurassic World came out, I thought, oh, cool, Jurassic Park 4, hell yeah, let's watch it. And at the time, I loved it. Now, I think it's an okay movie still. It's not great. I think The Lost World is better, but Jurassic World still isn't a horrible movie, I don't think. And even Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I know a lot of people hate Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and honestly, like, I can understand why. There's a lot wrong with that movie, but I don't hate it like other people do. It's not really like. I don't hate it. Like, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I was still fine with it. Then, we get to this movie, and this is the movie that made me think, like, yeah, I don't really care too much for the Jurassic World movies, like, at all. Um, Yeah, so I don't like Jurassic World Dominion, just right off the bat. And another thing I want to say, if you like Jurassic World Dominion, then honestly, I think that's cool. More power to you. But as far as like me personally, I don't like this movie, like at all. I go on Twitter, I go on Instagram, and I see people say like, I absolutely love Jurassic World Dominion. It was great. And honestly, I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad you can find enjoyment out of something that I don't enjoy. I wish I could walk out of a movie and say, oh, I love that movie. It was great. I wish I could love movies like Gamera the Super Monster. I wish I could love movies like I don't know, like all of the Michael Bay live action Transformers movies. I don't know, like all these movies that I don't like. I wish I could go out of those movies and say like those are great. I love those, but I can't. I can with those movies. So the fact that you enjoy Jurassic World Dominion is perfect. I love that. So good on you. But like I said, as far as me personally goes, I don't like Jurassic World Dominion. So yeah, I'll talk more about that. But yeah, really quick, I want to give a spoiler warning. If you have not seen the movie yet, there will be spoilers in this movie. So if you haven't seen it, then click off. Or if you do, don't care. Do whatever you got to do, but just know there will be spoilers in this movie. So yeah. Anyway, let's just get right into this. So I'm going to be doing this review a little differently. Normally, I talk about like very specific things before I talk about my general like positives and negatives with the movie. But for this movie, I'm gonna do it differently. I'm gonna skip right to my general like positives and negatives because all the other things like I talk about like the characters and the writing and the soundtrack. I think like they can be summed up in my general positives and negatives pretty well. So yeah. Anyway, before we take a look at the negatives this movie has, there are some positives that I think this movie has. They're very minor, and I think the negatives definitely outweigh the positives. But still, I just want to say that there are some minor things I do like about this movie. So let's talk more about that. One of the biggest things about this movie, not so much the movie itself, but I just want to give a big props to Colin Trevorrow because he is a very passionate man and like where he wants the series to go. Because you can tell in like interviews and stuff like that, and even like behind the scenes stuff, he's very passionate about this franchise, and he's very like passionate about like where he wants this series to go. Because like with Jurassic World, he said he made a post on Twitter being like doing some research with like a picture of like Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues for the Super Nintendo, which was really cool. A lot of like interviews for Fallen Kingdom, he talks about like, Hammond's business partner from like, the novel. And he's like very passionate about it. And even in this movie, like you can tell, he is a very passionate I said. He is he's a very passionate man. And he clearly he knows where he wants the series to go, and he's like very strong about sticking to his idea. And I think that's really cool. And even though I don't like Jurassic World Dominion, I can at least look at stuff like that and they say like, you know what? At least he's passionate. So I think that's really cool. Even in an interview we did, he talked about he did an interview. He was saying like, if you want to see these dinosaurs and how they like actually were, then I suggest watching Prehistoric Planet because I have not seen it yet, but honestly, it does look really cool, so I'm definitely gonna check that out at some point. Not like those words specifically, but he did talk about Prehistoric Planet, how like you should go watch it, and it looks great. And I think it's really cool that Colin Trevorrow is like giving a shout out to this dinosaur documentary. He's like a big like Hollywood like movie director, and he's giving like shout outs like documentaries and stuff. And I think that's so cool. So even though I don't like Dominion, I have nothing against Colin Trevorrow or any of the people who worked on this movie. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, I mean, I think it's weird how she kind of got into NFTs, but, still, like, I have so much respect for all these people, and Colin Trevorrow especially, he's a very passionate filmmaker, and so much respect for him. So, Colin Trevorrow, if you're watching this video, which I highly doubt, I just want you to know that I have so much respect for you, dude. Like, you're great, is all I'm trying to say. But, yeah, and the rest of the positives I have with this movie are very minor. Um, One thing I think is really cool, at the end of the movie, we see two other T-Rexes meet up with Rexy, and according to Trevorrow, those are the male and female T-Rexes from the Lost World, and I didn't get a good look at them, because, they were there for, literally 3 seconds. It would have been nice to see more of, them meeting Rexy, but it was really cool to see them again, it adds nothing at all to the movie, but still, it's cool to see him again, so I like that. The T-Rex redesign, I think the T-Rex looks great in this movie. Like Jurassic World, she was way too skinny and all the proportions looked kind of weird. She didn't look terrible, but she didn't look great either. And in Fallen Kingdom, she looked better, but she still could have looked a little better. But here, they redesigned her head to make her look more like the Jurassic Park T-Rex, and it looks really good. I like how she looks in this movie. So yeah, the T-Rex redesign is great, and I love it. There are a couple of other Easter eggs, to the older movies, and Alan Grant's dig site in his tent, we see the Velociraptor resonating chamber, which I thought was a neat little touch. And yeah, just like little like references like that, I think are really cool. Very minor and don't add anything at all. But I can't think of anything else like any other, any other references. But still, like the God, I can't speak today. The Easter eggs that were in this movie, like they were minor, but they were cool, and I like them. So yeah. The idea of like big companies like harming the environment through like genetic engineering to make like a profitable gain. I think that's very like it is like that's very like Crichton esque, because like in the original book, he talks about like people using like genetic engineering for like for pharmaceutical reasons, having like little pet dinosaurs and just like all this like other stuff that's like insane. I mean pet dinosaurs, but it could like other things that could actually like damage the world. And that's kind of brought up here because like there's the idea that like the big company Biosyn, I'll talk more about this later when I talk about my negatives, but like they're harming the environment, but like they're doing it to sell their own brand of like wheat seeds. So yeah, like the idea of like big companies like damaging the environment and like using like genetic engineering to make a profitable gain, I think that's very spot on to Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. So I do like that. And one other like very minor positive I have with this movie is the soundtrack is really good, but there's like at one point in the movie where Blue and her baby Beta, they're like in the woods and they're like hunting this rabbit, and it's really quiet, right? Like the rabbit doesn't see them, or like sneaking. But then there's like a little like a bit where they play like a track from like the original like Lost World Jurassic Park PS1 game, which I think is really cool. Like it's quiet, and like you see the raptors like slowly like honing into this rabbit, and you just hear like ba da dum ba da dum ba da ba da bum, or it's something like, or like that like melody, but it's like really slowed down, and I think it's really cool. Michael Giacchino, or Giacchino, I'm sorry, your last name escapes me at the moment. He did the soundtracks for all of the Jurassic World movies, and I think he did a really good job. And of course, he did the soundtrack for the Lost World Jurassic Park for the PS1. So I think it's really cool that he like sneaks little stuff like that into the the soundtrack. Um, yeah, it's just really cool. I like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it with the positives I have with this movie. A lot of the positives I have are very minor, but still, like, I don't want to say this movie is completely useless or completely bad, because there are some very minor things that I can look at and say, like, you know what, that's pretty cool. I like that. So, yeah. Alright, so now on to the negatives. Right off the bat, I just want to say I don't like any of the characters in this movie. Like, at all. Like, I don't dislike some of them, but I don't really like them either. And I'm sure there's going to be some people in the comments, but Zack, it's the original trio. How could you not, cry in joy? And it's just kind of like, okay, it's cool. It's great to see them again. Like, really, it is. But, like, I don't like what they did to these characters. Like, Alan Grant is no longer interested in dinosaurs, which I think, like, it goes against his character, I think. Ellie, I think, like, with Alan, they did him, like, the dirtiest, because, like, in the beginning, he's like, oh, yeah, no, I love paleontology. I love being alone. I love all of this. Like kind of like sarcastically, but then in the end he's just kind of like, "No, Ellie, I don't want to do paleontology anymore. I want to be with you." And it's like, don't like the whole like one of the main reasons why we, were attached to his character was because he was very passionate about dinosaurs. He was very passionate about like, raptors at like the dig site in Montana, which I know there's going to be someone in the comments. Oh, but raptors live in Mongolia. Shut up. You get my point though. Like the dig site, like he's very passionate about like these animals. So the fact that in this movie he's just kind of like, nope, I don't like dinosaurs anymore, and I want to be with Ellie. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, like at all. So yeah, Alan, I'm not correct. I don't dislike Alan's character, but I don't like his character either. And the rest of the trio is just like, Ian Malcolm, he doesn't do a whole lot. He fights the Giga for like a second. He opens the gate at one point, and even Ellie, she's there to like investigate what's going on with Biosyn, but again, it's not like a whole lot going on there. And yeah, of course we have Owen and Claire back, and I don't care for them like at all. Claire went through an interesting character arc in the first two movies, where like in the first movie she was very corporate, and she like only saw the dinosaurs as assets and nothing more. And then like towards the end of the movie, she starts to like realize that these aren't just assets; these are like actual living creatures, and we see that in Fallen Kingdom because she goes from this corporate businesswoman woman to this very like environmentalist, like trying to save the dinosaurs. And we do get some of that in this movie, but for the most part, it's just Claire like trying to find Maisie. And speaking of Maisie, I think she was the worst character in this movie. I hated Maisie so much, and it's a shame because like I didn't really care too much for the characters in Fallen Kingdom, but I'll admit Maisie was actually like one of my favorites because like she was a child, of course, but like she I think she was handled really well as far as like child characters go in movies, especially like the Jurassic World movies. And even like her actor or actress, whatever, I think she did a really good job. So Maisie was like, I thought she was, she was great in Fallen Kingdom. The whole clone thing, I think, is really stupid. But again, like as a character, I think she was really likable. But then you get to this movie, and she's now every rebellious teen you see in like every movie ever, who's like, whatever, Dad. It's like, oh, okay, it's really annoying, and I don't like Maisie in this movie. I liked her in Fallen Kingdom, but not here. The story I think is really dumb. You have Ellie like investigating like what's going on with Biosyn, which I didn't really care too much for. Like I said at the beginning, like the idea of like big companies like using genetics to like damage the environment so they can make like a profit. I think that's in line with Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. But at the same time, like the actual like story of them trying to like investigate what's going on, I didn't really care too much for. Like I thought it was just kind of like whatever. And the whole plot with like Owen and Claire trying to get Maisie and Beta back from like these poachers, I thought was really dumb too. It's just kind of like okay, and like the actual like so Beta gets captured because they set a trap for her, which okay, fair enough. Maisie gets captured in the dumbest way possible. So there's a point in the movie where Owen is trying to save like Beta from the poachers, and he's like yelling at Maisie like, Maisie, stay here, don't go anywhere. And then of course the rebellious teen character that she is, she decides to go out and go on a bike ride, and Claire tries to stop her and says like where do you think you're going? And Maisie just says like I'm going out, you're not my mom. And Claire, she doesn't do anything. She doesn't say. She just kind of stands there and she just crosses her arms and just. And it's like, you could have done something, or at the very least, you could have said something, or at least tried something. You're literally just letting her get away. And of course, like on her little bike ride, she gets captured by these poachers, and it's just kind of like, this all could have been avoided if like you tried to talk to her. I know, like, oh, they're not like actual parents; they don't know what they're doing, but it's like I don't. That was really lazy, like the way they handled that. I've seen people defend these movies, like, oh well, what else do you expect them to do? Like, I don't like the pteranodon scene in the first Jurassic World movie. I don't like how they're running around like shooting all the pterosaurs. And I've seen people who are like, well, they're killing people. What else do you expect them to do? It's like, easy. Don't write your movie like that. Don't write your movie to have dumb scenes like that. So, for those of you saying like, oh well, what do you expect Claire to do? Claire doesn't have a bike. Maisie does. Like, no, I'm saying like don't write your movie like this. Is all. That's what I'm trying to say. Like people try to defend these scenes as like they're like real events that actually happen. It's like no, it's like they're writing. It's just kind of like don't write your movie like that. So, yeah, the characters in this movie or I just talked about that. The story, not a fan. A lot of false promises with this movie too. Chris Pratt said on I think it was Twitter, he was like, "This is like the end game of like Jurassic Park movies," and that kind of got me excited. Like I know we're getting like the original trio again, but there's also a part of me that was thinking like, "Oh, we're gonna get we could probably see like Sarah Harding or Nick Van Owen or maybe Roland Tembo because he didn't die in the Lost World, so it would be great to see him again. Just like all these legacy characters, the kids from the first movie, even Kelly from the Lost World. Even though I didn't love Kelly as a character, she was still like like it would have been cool to see everyone. But no, the only legacy characters we see are the original trio. I mean, we get Henry Wu, but we've seen him in like the other two Jurassic World movies, so it's just kind of like, you know, it's not really like a big reveal for him to come back for this movie. And then of course, like there's Rexy, which is cool to see, but it's like again, like she was in the last two Jurassic World movies, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of like this whole like this is the Avengers Endgame of Jurassic Park movies. It's like we only get like a few characters though, so yeah. Another thing I think is really I don't know why Colin Trevorrow said this, but he said the new apex predator of Jurassic World Dominion, the Giganotosaurus. He compared that dinosaur to the Joker. He was like, "Oh, this is going to be the Joker of dinosaurs," and of course everybody was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I don't think that was explained in this movie. There might have been something that I missed, but like, still, I'm just like watching this movie like, what the hell do you mean like the Joker of dinosaurs? Because like, I haven't seen 2019's Joker. I'll be honest and say that. It looks like a really good movie, but like I haven't seen it. Well, I do know that like we live in a society where like people treated him like the Joker like trash, and that's what like sort of like caused him to become the Joker. So maybe I thought they're gonna be like maybe like as an infant the Giganotosaurus was like tortured a lot, so that's why it's like interested in like killing people. But no, you don't really get any like that backstory. It's just kind of like, oh, it's the Joker of dinosaurs. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, and just a lot of cringy moments in this movie. There's like a scene that like Claire and Maisie have because like Claire says something and Maisie's just like, "I'm not even a real person. I'm a clone. Whatever, mom." And Claire says something like, "You're the realest person to ever person," and it's just kind of like sorry, there's a motorcycle going by. And Maisie makes like a really weird face after that, and I started laughing at that because it just comes out of nowhere. And then they make it into a joke. I was like, was that really corny? Yeah, that was pretty corny. It's like, like, ah, it was just that I didn't like. Maisie at one point does like the Owen like the classic Owen pose where he's posing in front of the Raptors and like to Beta Blue or Baby Blue Beta, whatever you want to call her. Like she sees Beta and she's like, hey, and she's like doing the pose, and I I don't know why that moment in particular just like made me really cringe. Like I actually like looked away because I was like, oh, mm. So yeah, that I didn't like at all. And they had Alan Grant do that pose too. It's like, guys, don't do that. Please, just stop. And then there's a part in the movie where Ellie says to Alan Grant at some point about like, because Alan was like, "Oh, how'd you get to this biosyn facility?" And Ellie just responds with, "I slid into the DMs," and it's like, don't date this movie. Like Jurassic Park, like the first movie, I think is a very timeless movie. I mean, sure, there's that scene with like, oh, it's the interactive CD-ROMs, and like the CGI at some points like doesn't look great, but as far as like the characters go and the acting, like I think that movie is very timeless. But then like you give like lines like that to this movie because like with movies like Sonic Movie 2. I'm not calling it Sonic 2 because the video game is already called Sonic 2. I don't want to associate the game with the movie. But Sonic Movie 2 had a scene where like Robotnik just started flossing. And that didn't bother me because it was a kids movie in the year 2022. I mean, sure flossing might be dated, but still it's a kids movie and you're trying to be hip. That's what a lot of like 80s cartoons for you. A lot of like 80s cartoons had like characters saying like cowabummer or cowabummer like cowabunga like in Ninja Turtles and like stuff like that, which is fine. So for that like kids movies like being like current and like trendy, I think that's fine. But for this movie, it's just it comes out of nowhere and it's just bad because this is like a PG-13 movie, and even with Black Panther, they reference the "What are those" meme. And at that point, that meme has been dead for like I think like 3 or 4 years. So like they like really missed that. So it's just kind of like with this one, it's like don't do that. So yeah. So I think my biggest issue with this movie, right? It's not the characters. I can live with the characters. I can live with the story. I can live with the false promises. I think my biggest issue with this movie is that it feels very disconnected from Jurassic Park. Of course, in this movie, like we have dinosaurs on the mainland, which is dumb in my opinion. People say it's very Crichton-esque, but I disagree with that because yeah, at the end of the first book, they foreshadowed like dinosaurs being on the mainland, but like it's very like mysterious, and it was like they foreshadowed like like a few raptors being on the mainland and like maybe some compies, not like huge dinosaurs like Apatosaurus or Brachiosaurus or anything like that. So when people say like dinosaurs on the mainland is like very Crichton-esque, it's like I kind of disagree because the dinosaurs that were hinted at being on the mainland in Jurassic Park, the novel, were like smaller dinosaurs, not big dinosaurs like Apatosaurs, like I just said. So yeah, that I don't like at all. Dinosaurs being on the mainland and just the scenes in Malta, I think it's just stupid. It's just really stupid. The locusts, I don't. Well, like I said at the beginning of this review, I like the idea of like companies like using genetic engineering to like damage the environment, so that way they can like make their own profit. Like that I like, and I feel like the locusts could have worked, but the actual scenes with the locusts I thought were really stupid. Like yeah, there really didn't need to be like any scenes with the locusts like at all. Like there could have just been like a scene where like like you have like news reports of like, oh, these like giant locusts like just randomly appeared. We don't know what's going on, but we have like investigators, like Ellie Sattler, like investigating it, and then later in the movie, it's revealed that the locusts belong to Biosyn, and like their whole like like people will buy our specific like brand of like wheat, so that way the locusts don't eat them, right? Like I like that, but like the actual scenes, like it's just dumb. We have a scene where like the locusts like attack this barn that doesn't feel like Jurassic Park. It feels like a scene from like The Mummy or like I don't know, like Twister or something like that. It doesn't feel like Jurassic Park at all. And even like towards the end of the movie, there's a scene where like Louis Dodgson, which he's in this movie by the way, he's trying to cover up his tracks and like you know trying to cover up his tracks and like set the whole thing on fire. So what he does, right? The locusts are like hatched and they're in like a room, right? So what Lewis decides to do, he decides to light them on fire and then he decides to release them like onto the facility so they can just burn everything down. And to me, that's just really stupid because it's like first of all, like if like these things are like burning alive, so I don't think they'd be like flying around and causing like huge forest fires like this. I feel like it mostly like if like they're on fire, I feel like they're just gonna be like on the ground like squirming. They're not gonna like have the energy to like fly around. That'd be like if I decide to run a marathon, but I got stabbed in the chest. I'm not gonna be thinking about I got to get this marathon done. I'm gonna be scream. I might not even be screaming. I'm just gonna be on the ground just bleeding out to death. Like it's just really unrealistic how these bugs they're on fire, but like like they still have the energy to like fly around. It just feels like really dumb to me. So yeah, the locusts I don't like at all. Um, reptoids. There are lizard people in this movie. I remember when Jurassic Park 4 came out, or not Jurassic Park 4, but like the idea of Jurassic Park 4 was gonna like have human dinosaur hybrids. We didn't get to that level just yet, but I feel like we're getting dangerously close because in Fallen Kingdom they talked about how Maisie is a clone. Her mother died, which really upset Lockwood because that was his daughter. So Lockwood decided to make her again, which I thought was really dumb. But in this movie, they made it 50 times dumber because Henry Wu meets up with Maisie, and he tells her, like, listen, Maisie, like, your mother was special, right? Your mother, she actually gave birth to you asexually. She didn't have sex with anyone, or he didn't say that specifically, but it's explained this in the movie. She didn't have sex with anyone. She just gave birth, like, asexually, because I guess some monitor lizards have a gene that, like, they can, like, reproduce asexually. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, let me know in the comments, or if it's not, again, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I guess monitor lizards have a gene where they can reproduce asexually, and Macy's mother had that and gave birth to Maisie asexually. So yeah, and the gene caused Maisie's mom to die. So Maisie still has that gene, but like she wasn't affected by like the death. Like she's not gonna die because of this. So Henry Wu needs Maisie's DNA, so so he can make like a variant of the locust that so they can like die. So like that can like mix in with a big like group of locusts, and then like it just kills the entire population. And it's just really like that is not Jurassic Park. That's not Michael Crichton. Like, I'm sorry, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. And I know there's going to be one person. Actually, on Twitter a while back, I remember I made a post saying something along the lines of, saying something like, the human cloning in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was, like, really stupid. Probably the stupidest thing the franchise has seen. And someone replied to me, being like, if cloning dinosaurs is, like, or they said, like, why is it that cloning dinosaurs is not unrealistic, but cloning humans is? And for me, it's just kind of like, it's not that it's unrealistic, it's just that it doesn't fit, right? Like, they only use that, like, as an excuse to, like, let the dinosaurs out into the mainland. But here, I don't even know why they included the whole, like, oh, your mother reproduced asexually. I don't get that. I don't know why they did that. So for me, it's just kind of like, it just feels really dumb. And that's another thing I want to talk about. People will defend, like, things that happen in Jurassic World as if, like, they're actually happening. Like, for example, I don't like the Pteranodon scene from the first Jurassic World, where, like, the Pteranodons are, like, attacking people, and all, like, the guys with guns are, like, running around, they're tranking them all. I don't like that scene because it doesn't feel like it belongs in Jurassic Park. Now, people will defend that scene being like, pteranodons are attacking people. Like, what else are you going to do? Just let them attack people? And it's like, no, like, don't write your movie to have scenes like this. You see, what made Jurassic Park special was, like, the action in that movie felt very grounded, right? Like, the T-Rex breakout scene. There's not, like, the camera isn't doing, like, all these, like, tricks and flips we see in, like, Marvel movies now. It's like there's no music. It's very atmospheric, and like the dinosaurs, they feel like actual animals. And the action doesn't revolve around people running around with guns shooting dinosaurs. We get that in like like in the Lost World, we get some of that, but not really. Like it's not like a big like thing. I mean, like I know Roland Tembo, like his gun was that was part of his character. But like it wasn't just like people just running around with guns. I mean, yeah, there were scenes with people running around with guns, but like like this movie, it's just like literally like that like pushed all the way like to a point where it feels stupid, right? Like the action in Jurassic Park revolves around like getting into situations with dinosaurs, or not even dinosaurs. Like for example, in the first movie, of course, there's a scene where like the car is in the tree, and Alan and Tim, they have to climb down before the car comes down and crushes them. Like it's characters getting into situations like that and figuring out how to get out of situations like that. But in the scene in Jurassic World where like everyone's running around with a gun and like shooting at these like pterosaurs that are flying around it, like it feels very over the top and very out of place. And that's something that's also like in this movie, because like the locusts and like the whole reptile people thing, it's like it doesn't feel like Jurassic Park. And people will say like, oh well, if cloning humans, why is it that cloning humans is unrealistic but cloning dinosaurs isn't? It's like, just don't write your movie like that. right? Don't write your movie to have scenes like that. If it wasn't Jurassic Park, I wouldn't care, but it is, and it's like you need to be consistent, right? With how you handle things. But yeah, so yeah, there's just a lot of that. I'm not a big fan of the whole kaiju-esque fights between like the big dinosaurs. Like the fight scene in Jurassic Park 3 was cool because like it felt grounded. It felt like, again, it was very atmospheric. There was no music, and these felt like actual giant animals fighting each other. I mean, there's some parts that are unrealistic. Like realistically, if the T-Rex bit down on the neck of the Spinosaurus, like instantly, I think the Spinosaurus would have been dead because the T-Rex's bite force is like crazy strong. But like, it still like feels real. And then you get to Jurassic World where the T-Rex fights the Indominus Rex, and the camera angles like going like 50 like different directions at once. There's like this like epic music, and it feels like like very like like a Marvel or like a Godzilla thing, and it's like Jurassic Park is completely different from Godzilla. I mean, sure they reference Godzilla in the Lost World, but like no, like the actual like scenes involving the dinosaurs should be like very different from Godzilla, and they try to have that. And with this movie, the T Rex teams up with the Therizinosaurus to kill the Giganotosaurus, and once the Giganotosaurus is dead, they're both like roaring together, like, yeah, we did that. Like, it's a Godzilla movie. And it's like, it just feels so stupid. And like I said, I don't like the Marvel tone. Everyone has like, quips and one liners when there shouldn't be. Like, yeah, there are like, Jeff Goldblum especially, or Ian Malcolm, he has one liners in the first movie. But like, it didn't feel out of place. Whenever there was like a serious moment going on, like, he wasn't making jokes. Like, and again, in the T Rex breakout scene, when like the T Rex breaks out and it's like, like when Ian tries to like go out and like, distract the T Rex, he's not like having any one liners. He's just like, hey, 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 he's like trying to get its attention. He's like genuine. But here you have like Owens say some stupid things, and then like it's just dumb. And I have nothing against Marvel movies. I haven't seen any of them because I genuinely don't care about, or excuse me, I don't really care about Marvel, so I don't really care about seeing the movies. So I can't really see if they're good movies or not. But like I've seen clips, and they feel very similar to the Jurassic World movies, and it's like that's the thing though. Like Jurassic Park isn't a Marvel movie. Jurassic Park is like this it's a very different movie. It's like, yeah, there are dinosaurs, but it's very like grounded in reality. And like I said earlier about like the whole human like cloning thing, like, oh, it's realistic that clone dinosaurs are not human. Jurassic Park is light sci-fi. Jurassic Park is sci-fi only to have like an excuse for like the dinosaurs to be on the mainland. So when you introduce things like cloned humans or robots like in Camp Cretaceous, it's like you're kind of pushing it. So yeah, I don't like the whole Marvel, like this Marvel tone for these Jurassic World movies. I think that's really dumb. There are references just for the sake of references. I know, like earlier, I said like it was really cool to see like the male and female T Rex from the Lost World Jurassic Park, and it is cool. But at the same time, there's no reason for it. Like in that scene, you could have just had like two random T Rexes. They didn't have to be those two T Rexes specifically, right? And even in like Fallen Kingdom, there's a scene where like the Brachiosaurus is like on the dock and it's like about to die, and it's like that would have been a fine scene, but the director was like, oh, that's the Brachiosaurus from the first movie, and it's like, first of all, they look completely different. Second of all, it's like, do you really need to do that? Like, there's no point to it. It's just pointless, and it gets to a point where it's kind of annoying. Um, the dinosaur designs, okay. I don't like a lot of the Jurassic World dinosaur designs. Not because they're inaccurate, but because they don't fit with the pre-established like designs, established with the original movies. Like you look at the Triceratops in Jurassic Park, and then you look at the Triceratops in Jurassic World, right? They look completely different. And in my honest opinion, I think the Jurassic Park Triceratops look way better than the Jurassic World Triceratops. And you look at the Stegosaurus, and from the Lost World and in Jurassic World, and you can tell that, again, they're both completely different. And again, I like the Lost World Stegosaurs much more. And like, I guess like the lore is that like, oh, they got the dinosaurs from Isla Sorna, So there's no reason why the stegosaurs in Jurassic World should look different from, the Lost World. And same with like the Triceratops. In fact, the only designs to like stay from like the original movies are the Parasaurolophus and the T Rex for the most part. Though the T Rex did get like a little bit of a glow up in this movie because like the Parasaurolophus in Jurassic World looks very similar to the one in the Lost World. So it's just kind of frustrating to me that they stuck with the Parasaurolophus design from the Lost World, but they just redesigned everything else, like the Triceratops and the Ankylosaurus and the Stegosaurus and like all these dinosaurs that I think looked a million times better in like these original movies. And even the Pteranodons, like say what you want about the Jurassic Park 3 Pteranodons, like the whole teeth thing. The Jurassic World Pteranodons are just ugly, but the Jurassic Park 3 ones I think look really nice. There are some dinosaur designs I really like. I think the Carnotaurus looks really good. Um, I don't like the Baryonyx. Is there another? Like I said, the T-Rex didn't look too bad, and the Parasaurolophus. Um, the Pyro Raptor, I think, looks fine. I think it looks really good. It's just, like, I love the body, right? For the most part, the body, like, everything looks great. And then you get to the head, and the head is just really ugly. It's like putting a crocodile's head on a wolf's body. It's like, it doesn't work that well. So, yeah, I know they're like fan like recreations of the Pyroraptor to make it less ugly, but I digress. And even the Giganotosaurus itself, it's like it doesn't fit with the original. It doesn't fit with like the original like design process because Jurassic. I know, like I just said, like I don't like the Jurassic World designs. I almost said Jurassic Park. I don't like the Jurassic World designs because like I don't like them because they're not accurate. I don't like them because they don't mesh well. Because like the Jurassic Park dinosaurs, like in the first movie, like they tried to be as accurate as possible. And it makes sense that in the newer movies they'd say the same because it'd be weird if Rexy looked like, how she did in 1993, but then just randomly changed in 2015. That would be kind of weird. But, like at that point, like they're just kind of like, like they tried to be accurate, but here they used the whole genetic engineering thing to make like the dinosaurs like as an excuse for them not to be accurate, which is fine, but I still think they look ugly. The Giganotosaurus is like this big, spiky, like kaiju like dinosaur, and it doesn't fit well. And the Baryonyx, especially, I think is really ugly. And it's just kind of like if you're gonna use the genetics as an excuse to have the dinosaurs not accurate, at least go all the way with it, right? Fred the Dino Man, he made some fan art of the Lost World Carnotaurus, where like they were very like in the Lost World novel there were Carnotaurs and they were like giant chameleons. So basically, like he made fan art that depicted them like giant chameleon like creatures. And it looked really, really good. And it's like if you're gonna make them like genetic monsters, then go that route. Have the Carnos as like these giant chameleon like creatures. Don't have this like ugly like sewer gator as like the Baryonyx or so on. Like it's just frustrating. I don't like the dinosaur designs, and yeah, that's that. And I guess one more thing with this movie, I wasn't even excited to see Rexy anymore. Like with Jurassic World, it was awesome to see Rexy. Like they could have gone with like any other T-Rex, but there was the T-Rex from the first movie, and that was amazing. And even in Fallen Kingdom, like they still handled her kind of weird, but like it was still nice to see her then. And the opening scene of Fallen Kingdom was very good. But then you have this movie where it's like she's in like two scenes, and it's like she gets bitched out by the Giganotosaurus, and then she's in that stupid like kaiju fight, and it's like, damn, okay, like as I've said in previous videos, I am a huge Jurassic Park, or I am a huge T-Rex fanboy when it comes to Jurassic Park. Like, if you're gonna make a new Jurassic Park movie, give me a T-Rex, I'm good, right? And that's why I said I love the Lost World Jurassic Park, because there's a lot of T-Rex action, and like I said, Jurassic Park T-Rex is, one of my favorite things ever. Outside of Jurassic Park, I don't care too much for the T-Rex. I think it was, I love the prehistoric planet T-Rex, but yeah, outside of Jurassic Park and Prehistoric Planet, I don't really care too much for T-Rex. My favorite dinosaur is Carnotaurus, but that's besides the point. But here it's just kind of like, oh, okay, there's Rexy. Cool. So, yeah. And that's pretty much all I have to say. And as you can tell, yeah, I don't like this movie. Like, at all. And like I said at the beginning, if you like this movie, that's great. I'm glad you had a great time, you know? Don't let me ruin your take on a movie you like, because I'm not a professional reviewer. Like, sure, like, if not all my videos on this channel are like, you know, reviews of figures. But I don't think I'm professional. I'm just like some loser on the internet giving his thoughts about a dinosaur movie. So don't let me take away your enjoyment of a dinosaur movie. If you love Jurassic World Dominion, that is amazing. I'm so happy for you. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't like this movie. And I'm sure there's going to be someone in the comment being like, oh, you don't like this movie? You're not a true fan of Jurassic Park. It's like, I mean, that's kind of a lie because at the beginning of this video, I said Jurassic Park, like, influenced me, like, a lot. You know, and I love The Lost World and the two books. It's like, yeah. And even to this day, you know, like, I mean, I'm not as strong about it as I used to be, but, like, I'm still going to buy the Hammond collection figures. I'm still going to buy the Legacy collection figures. And, like, if it looks like, you know, if it's a cool looking Jurassic Park figure, I'll pick it up. Like, Jurassic Park is, like, the closest thing I have to religion, basically. So it's just kind of like, I love Jurassic Park, so don't come up to me and say I'm a fake fan, because no, I love Jurassic Park. It's just kind of like I don't like this movie in particular. So yeah. So out of a 10, honestly, I want to give this movie like a 4 out of 10, but at the same time, that feels a little too generous. So I think I'm gonna stick with the 4 out of 10, but if I ever decide to watch this movie again, which I highly doubt, I only watched this movie once, so maybe in this review I missed like some big points that were pointed out in this movie, maybe, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, you know, um, yeah, I might have missed some points, but I don't care because, you know, these are just my thoughts. So, yeah. These aren't your thoughts on the movie, these are my thoughts. So, yeah. It's, I guess, one last tangent I want to get into before I end this video. I think, the state of, like, film reviews is in, like, a really rough state. Because you have, like, people who are, like, really biased towards these movies. Who, like, give movie critics like you know a lot of shit for doing their job. This was really bad with Sonic movie 2, where you know the first movie, you know, critics were like saying the movie wasn't that good. So then Sonic fans were going out of the way to be like, this movie is really good. Critics like they don't know Sonic. These critics are like horrible people. I'm gonna harass them. And it's like if you're above the age of 12, but even then that's kind of pushing it. Like there's something wrong with you if you're gonna go out of your way to like attack a movie critic. Like they're not haters. They're not going out of their way to like bash a movie. They're just giving their genuine thoughts, and that's what I'm doing, right? I'm not trying to hate on this movie. I'm not trying to make this movie look bad. These are just my genuine thoughts, you know? Like I said, if you like this movie, great, but I don't like this movie. So like, you know, people say like people have the right to like whatever they want. So don't shit on it. And that's true. But if people have the right to like whatever they want, then people also have the right to dislike whatever they want. So you can choose to like this movie all you want, but I choose to dislike this movie. So yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Zack out.